Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
Joining us now in studio, Lindsey Piegza. She's with Stifel. She was my Economist of the Year. Just brave in her views 12 and 18 months ago. Let's get brave here on PPI coming up in a moment. What's the character of our inflation? Is it a movable feast up or down, or is it just a leadenness, a resiliency to where we are in price change?
I think right now inflation is experiencing some sort of a floor support, but around that floor we are going to continue to see movement. Any movement to the downside simply solidifies the Fed's growing concerns about the employment side of the equation. And really any upside risk, at least from a minimal standpoint, is going to maybe keep the Fed still focused on easing, but limit the amount of easing they can do.
114% of our listeners across the nation right now, on YouTube, on radio, are saying she's nuts. They're looking at their day-to-day living, and it screams inflation. Are we going to see that in 4 minutes? Are we going to see that tomorrow with CPI?
We've been seeing that for years. Inflation is well above that 2% target. We're nowhere near getting back to that. And yet the Fed seemingly is abandoning their concern about inflation, now shifting very furiously their focus on the employment data. I think if the Fed had stayed true to their mandate early on, we would be in a much better position from a broader economic standpoint. They stopped short of where they needed to raise rates back in the day. They've been slow playing it, and now we're still contending with this easing that we saw at the end of last year, exacerbating this underlying embeddedness of inflation in the economy.
To what do you attribute that? An inability to balance both at once, over-focusing on the inflation side of the mandate? And what does that tell us about the path forward here? You mentioned kind of the risks going forward when it comes to the labor market. What confidence should we have in the Fed's capacity to, again, balance both of these things going forward as the labor market becomes something that it seems understandably is going to attract much more of their attention?
Well, it's a delicate balance. So I don't want to say this is an easy job by any means. I think they're doing the best that they can. But I do think that the Fed's focus should be and should have been more fervently on inflation. And now at this point, that window of opportunity is closing, because the economy is losing some momentum. The labor market is losing some momentum. And the focus now is shifting. And that's going to, I think, retard or in some cases, maybe even completely outright remove the Fed's ability to address.
Can we go nerd before
rates.
the report?
Yeah, you got 2 minutes, Tom. That's all.
On a Slutsky-Hixian income substitution effect, I'm screaming that what we're seeing is a massive income effect of all of American economics right now, which will be a decline in our purchasing power. Do we see that now?
Absolutely. Remember, the consumption data that we're seeing, while still somewhat positive, somewhat stable, is not cost adjusted. So when we talk about a 4% retail sales number, we're not adjusting for buying 12 apples for $1 or 1 apple for $12. Consumers are still out in the marketplace. They're still spending. They're still the backbone to the U.S. economy, but we're getting less for our money. Absolutely. Yeah. We're taking home less.
Just brilliant. Dr. Piegza with us. You were at NYU, right?
Northwestern,
excuse me. It started with an N. I couldn't remember which one. Northwestern football, New York University.
No football. No football, right.
Okay, I got a disinflationary report this morning. If I get the same view tomorrow with CPI, doesn't it scream 50 beeps and check a lot of boxes?
I don't think it screams 50 basis points. I think it screams the Fed can cut policy by 25 basis points. But remember, we're still talking about an elevated inflationary environment. One report getting us closer to 2% does not remove the threat of inflation. And I would argue that the risk of inflation still remains to the upside. If we look out to the end of the year and the growth profile is higher than expected,
Right.
consumers pick up spending in that key holiday spending season, businesses start passing along tariff-related costs more than they have over the past couple of months, we're going to see inflation pick up, and that's going to remove the Fed's ability to cut rates.
At Northwestern, you've got the magic of Robert Gordon and others. I mean, there's a huge historical bent there. Have we seen this before, or is this original territory?
I think this is a new type of market. We've never seen this environment post-COVID with a 40% explosion in the money supply, with this type of change in fiscal policy coming down the pipeline. This is a new type of market that is trying to absorb these massive inflationary pressures that have been in place for a number of reasons over a number of years. And the Fed continues to seem tolerant of above target inflation.
David, the revisions come out and they too show a modest disinflation as well. That'll put a little fire on this.
We're here in the Interactive Brokers studio. You're in Chicago. What's the reaction to this on South LaSalle Street in Chicago? Austin Goolsby telling us last week he wanted to see these numbers. These numbers were going to be important for him as he makes his way to Washington next week. How does this, do you think, change his sense of the calculus here going forward?
Well, I think the Fed is going to look at these figures and say there's not a material upside risk to inflation, at least not this month. And given the material decline in the labor market data that we've seen as of late, the 3-month average right around 30,000 jobs per month, that's going to be enough to justify a rate cut next week. I don't think it's enough to justify 50 basis points, but 25 basis points with possibly a couple dissents in favor of a larger cut. But going forward, it's going to continue to depend on the evolution of the employment data and the inflation side of the equation, which has far from been satisfied at this point.
You are celebrating with your time off a new issuance of Offspring as well. And there's a whole affinity here to Julie Andrews and The Sound of Music. Are there going to be 7 Lindseys? I mean, are we heading for 7
I think
kids?
3 is where we're going to cap it.
If that's the case, she's going to need a governess and a lot more help. I imagine.
Julie Andrews will have to show up and either
be careful of those governesses.
The inflation of childcare is going up
the
so
childcare thing is not
that's a real
funny.
thing.
No, it's double-digit
As a parent
inflation
of
there.
3 as well, I
Absolutely.
know too well.
Congratulations
Yes,
from all of us within
Thank you,
Bloomberg
sir.
Surveillance. Lindsey
Appreciate
Piegza,
that.
really, really appreciate it. Dr. Piegza is with Stifel. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Surveillance coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
Nick Akerman joins us now, starting his career in the depths of Watergate, but far more than that, working in corporate law and fraud. We are honored he could be with us today. David Gurrow, why don't you bring in the esteemed Mr. Akerman?
Well, Nick, great to speak with you. And I took your counsel quite a bit over the course of the first Trump administration on all matter of legal issues when I was at another network. It's great to speak with you once again.
You were at another network?
The secret is
What a
out.
traitor.
Nick,
Really?
all of this hinges
I did not know
on
that.
2 words. For cause. Help us understand here the case that Lisa Cook and her attorney, Abby Lowell, are trying to make here and the difficulty of proving that as we get to the appeal stage of this, maybe all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Well, it's not that difficult, actually. For cause, the judge in the district court interpreted that to mean it has to be some kind of malfeasance during the time that Lisa Cook was actually serving on the Federal Reserve Board. She went through the legislative history, looked at the what was intended in the amendment to the Federal Reserve Act back in 1935, looked at the fact that what Congress was concerned about was malfeasance in office. So as a matter of law, she found that for cause can only relate to the time period that Lisa Cook was in office. And this all allegedly occurred prior to her appointment as a Federal Reserve Board member.
Nick, you know well there are many of these agencies that have some degree of independence from the administration or from Congress in Washington. The Supreme Court issued a decision a few months back in which it noted that the Fed's independence is a unique one and a special one. How is that going to shape what happens here going forward? If this does in fact make its way to the Supreme Court, how will that color the decision that those 9 justices make?
Oh, I think that's the bottom line. The fact that the Supreme Court, I think it was in Wilcox, has already said that. It was essentially dicta in another decision. But I think everyone agrees, and the district court opinion made a very strong case for the notion that Congress's intention in creating the Federal Reserve Board, well over 100 years ago at this point, was done in order to keep it independent from the ongoing politics of the nation. The fact that the person is appointed to a 14-year term, the fact that it was only a person could only be removed for cause.
Right.
And that really, I think, is going to color this straight up through.
And Nick, I had a hockey injury during Watergate, and I was flat on my back that summer where we leisurely went through meetings and Sam Ervin and Howard Baker and all the rest of it. Those days are gone. Now we want to be at the Supreme Court in 3.5 days. Nick Akerman, how has our law changed because we're so damn in a rush?
Well, I think it's the Supreme Court with their docket. I mean, they decide things on stays very rapidly without full briefing. I mean, it just is not right. I mean, look at the Watergate thing with the repeal on the tapes went very quickly. The whole thing occurred within a 7-month period, which in terms of normal litigation was really fast. But today, people are running up to the Supreme Court immediately, and the shadow docket that the Supreme Court has fostered allows for instant opinions without really a good opinion, not a substantial opinion.
How does the Chief Justice defend the institution in the remainder of the Roberts term, the Roberts era?
I think it's very difficult because when you're not actually writing full opinions, explaining your reasoning, giving both sides an opportunity to put in a full briefing, there's a reason for all of that. It's so that these issues, which are very important, can be decided in a normal course where everybody has a chance to actually put the best foot forward.
One final question. I got to get this in. Michael Barr's waiting for the news, but Mr. Akerman, this is too important. How political are our appeals courts because so-and-so appointed this judge or that judge?
I think they come down to being very political in the sense that this was not something that we looked at back during the days of Watergate. There are judges, they're appointed specifically because they wrote particular articles on an issue that appeals to the president. I think they're much more political than they were, and certainly the Supreme Court comes across that way.
Well, as David said at the beginning of this conversation, we're just thrilled and honored you could be with us. Nick Akerman, thank you so much for giving us needed perspective here amidst this legal moment, I should say. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Surveillance coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
The late Vince Farrell, who I adored. He was on Wall Street Week with Lou Kaiser. Vince Farrell and I used to be in tears laughing about how many kids we were still paying their iPhones for. Here to brief us this morning, toned down, with a new Pittsburgh Pirates cap is Dan Ives. For those of you on radio, you're lucky. What's the P on your hat, Dan?
It's an Arnold Palmer hat from Arnold Palmer Tournament. Big Arnold Palmer fan.
Let's get this out of the way. You signed as a chairman of a crypto thing this week. Explain what the game is you're doing there.
Yep. So, we announced that I'm going to be chairman of ACO. And ACO, is, when you think about Sam Altman and the build out of World, what they've essentially done is it's really going to be the infrastructure authentication for AI in the future. And, I was a huge believer in this. I'm not taking this on just for any crypto.
You have equity in this?
Yes,
you have
I
a
do.
bias. As a research analyst, this is a sidecar deal you're doing.
This is a total separate initiative. Total separate from my Wedbush. But Tom, it factors really into my view of the AI revolution. I'm doing this because I think this is going to be a de facto standard for really the future.
Are you going to take a minority interest in Perplexity if they called you and said we need Dan Ives?
As long as it comes through Keene. Who knows?
Okay.
Wait a second. Aco, as of earlier this week, was a corrugated packaging company?
Well, it basically is a treasury vehicle for WorldCoin in terms of what we've done. And that's why I think, reception's obviously been great. We raised capital and closed that this morning. Look, and it was super exciting to just put another hat on.
WorldCoin, we should say.
Talk more about this?
We should say WorldCoin, it's a means of authentication. You have your iris scan to know that you're the person that you say you are.
Glad you know.
Well,
okay, that's enough on that.
There's an orb involved.
We got to bring the orb for Keene next time.
Scan your eyes.
What did Mag 5 learn from the Oracle pop last night?
This AI party, it's 10 p.m. going to 4 a.m. I mean, the point is the infrastructure that's going to be a historic quarter when you look at Oracle, and it shows the type of CapEx we're seeing and the use cases are exploding. We've talked about so much here on the show.
It's changed my life. I mean, as simple as that.
Look, and the reality is anyone that thinks hype, not real,
right?
That Oracle number is a validation. That's a drop the mic from Safra and Ellison that shows to me what's going to happen in the rest of tech, and it's a barometer.
Did we have a drop the mic moment with Mr. Cook yesterday? I tuned in for 12 seconds. It's so manipulated. I can't watch it. You and Ed Ludlow saw it. Were you thumbs up like Gene Munster?
Look, it's a thumbs up relative to, I think, expectations. Our view here is that the elephant in the room continues to be, as we talk about AI, but I do believe with the DOJ Google situation now, in the rearview mirror, they will double down, and that's going to be ultimately their AI partnership. But in terms of the actual iPhone, look, 300 million plus have an upgrade in 4+ years. The point is, this is going to be...
That includes John Tucker.
Including Tucker. So if you think about it on a scale of 1 to 10 from an upgrade cycle, super cycle being a 10, it's probably going to be about an 8.5. But what I tell you is the street right now, numbers are conservative. New York City cab driver or Uber is still bearish on Apple. And I think that, to me, sets it up well as you add AI and they actually make a big move there. You're talking about another, $100 per share to the stock.
What does Apple have to do when it comes to AI? So I look at Meta, for instance, and they pay a lot of money. They're hiring a lot of big name people. And I think if you look at the history of Apple, they've had a bad luck of bringing in outside talent, particularly at the executive level, to mix things up and to change things around. Are they able to do that? What do they have to do to kind of reestablish themselves here at the vanguard of AI?
Look, there's a better chance of me playing in Bethpage Ryder Cup in September than AI innovation happening from Apple. And I think that's the issue, that they got to go outside. It has to be good.
Figure out a way to make that work.
Dan Ives with Wedbush with us this morning. David Gurr, Time King. Good morning across the nation on the way you listen to us on radio. Good morning, 92.9 FM in Boston, on YouTube, in your home, at your office, floored by the sign up. Thank you so much. Bloomberg Podcast. Go out to YouTube and subscribe at Bloomberg Podcast. Thank you for your attention to our new Dan Ives-like digital. Maybe I should start wearing bright pink. What do you think, David?
I could see that.
Why don't you continue with Mr. Ives?
I've talked about the pink bow tie for. I know. I know it.
Or the hoodie beneath the jacket would be a good look for you.
I think
even
and I thought Dan Ives clothing, we could add potentially a bow tie, and it would be called like the Keene.
Everything is like 2X. It's like for little people. What's the name of the company?
It's Snow Milk, my collab.
Tell Snow Milk they got to make like adult sizes, like we 5X, 6X, 12.
I think we go down the route with a Keene bow tie. I'm actually advocating
I like that. Very good. David, jump in here.
Can I go back to Oracle? I diverted over to Apple. I'd love to go back to Oracle. What should we make of how quickly they were able to make this pivot? What does it say about sort of the future direction of Oracle moving into cloud computing as rapidly as it did and as successfully as it did, certainly when you look at the numbers from yesterday?
Guess who's watching closely to see what they did? It's Benioff. It's Adobe. It's software. Where right now, they're not at the cool kids table. I mean, what Oracle's been able to do because of the stack,
right?
It's been transformational. And I think that more is where we're seeing, because everyone wants that 2 to 3 trillion of CapEx.
Right.
Everyone wants it.
Doug Cass emails in. Okay, he's beside himself about the Yankees defense. They're averaging like 3 errors a game. I mean, it's sad. Aaron Judge should be at first base. Dan Ives, Doug Cass has a question for you. The backlog dynamics versus the accounting on the statements. Is this an accounting issue to come not only for Oracle, but for other Mag 7, and that there's so much future business that needs to adjust in the accounting statement? Is that a risk?
And I hope Doug's doing well. Well, it's a good question. I think there's definitely some normalization that's going to happen there over the coming quarters. So you got to normalize it, from a backlog perspective in terms of ARR. Look, I think the reality is that over the coming quarters, that's where, look, for Oracle, if you're thinking about a stock that could go to 350, 400, you got to continue to show this. Because as the normalization starts to happen, the comps ultimately start to take place, you need to continue to see that growth.
You mentioned Google and Gemini. Mm-hmm. What are they waiting for?
They were waiting for DOJ.
Okay, that happened.
And now the candlelight dinner could happen between Sundar and Cook. And I believe that is, look, because and we've talked about, if the DOJ went negative toward an Apple, Google, right, then they have no choice, call Perplexity on the red phone, and they have to do that deal. But now, I think they double down the Gemini
partnership. What are they waiting for? Is it literally like just egos? They have to wait a little bit of time?
I think you wait a little time. Look, and we also know, in Cupertino, there is a part of it that runs like a motor vehicle in New Jersey. And that's been some of the issue in terms of some of the bureaucracy that they're trying to get rid of in terms of the red tape.
Going back to the Oracle numbers, so say Sundar's tuning in to watch Romaine and Keene give his numbers yesterday, or Andy's doing it up in Seattle. What do they make of those Oracle numbers? How much are they worried about the progress that Oracle's made here, and how do they comport themselves as a result? I think they actually love seeing those numbers because they view it, and that's why, like what you see with Google's GCP, right, it's a barometer that shows where that's coming. That's why Nadella, he's sitting there with a mimosa right now, watching those numbers.
I mean, and I do want to mention Oracle's put their support behind Bloomberg surveillance. We thank Oracle for their support each and every day. What's your single best buy?
I mean, to me, single best buy here continues to be Microsoft, just because of my view of where the hyperscalers are. It's in their backyard. Stock actually sold off a little post-court. And I think that's one. Like, they will ultimately join NVIDIA. What's eventually going to be
21% this year. And you say way more.
We've talked about it's just the begin. We are in the second inning of the AI revolution going night. And we've talked about the party started at 9 p.m. It's now 10 p.m. goes to 4 a.m. On the dance floor is Nadella, Jensen, Palantir, Karp, and others.
And you, Tom Keene.
People think Ives has a romantic life. Let's make it clear. You just got off the romantic red eye.
I just got off the romantic
with Carol
red eye.
and Tim, right?
Yeah, I was
You're out rocking
Huntington
it now.
Beach.
And actually, I went from Australia to Huntington Beach to now here with you guys.
Appreciate that. Lay flat beds, as you were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, but he's a little guy. It's like
great.
Guy. No, the lay flat bed works. There's no lay flat bed for me.
Yeah, but the problem is that's why you're the one that does like the special cabin in Emirates.
That's right.
So I'm not
the butler service on the A380.
The Keene cabin and the whole thing.
Exactly. Cabin, I like
they have a shower in the
full disclosure, La Premiere, Air France. But it's great. It's like a huge cabin.
Of course. But you set a higher standard.
He does.
I don't know. I don't know. Some tennis player was sitting next to me.
It's actually Keene's world. We all pay rent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dan Ives, go away. Dan Ives, thank you for explaining whatever your new business transaction is. I still don't get it.
The orb's coming to you soon, and I'll bring it next time.
Okay, Dan Ives, thank you so much.
Like a basketball?
That's really small. We'll bring the orb in next time. Keene will get scanned.
Dan Ives, thank you so much. I got to sell the show. Dan Ives, Wedbush Securities. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg surveillance coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
I'm going to set this up right now. There was a missile attack in Qatar. And my biggest problem with Qatar is we really don't know much about it. It's directly west of Dubai, sort of in between Dubai and Riyadh. It's this hunk of land stuck out into the Persian Gulf. And David, it's mostly expats. It's such a place to be in an economy wrapped around gas and oil that it's not that many Qataris and a lot of expats. And other than that, our knowledge base is they run an airline where you see those ginormous planes landed on Big Jet TV at Heathrow. That's a knowledge.
This is a broad strokes description of the place.
Huge news yesterday.
Huge news. Israel in strikes trying to take out leadership of Hamas in Doha, and certainly unprecedented and really raising a lot of concern throughout the region around the world. We had the President of the United States saying he was not happy with how this had all unfolded. The U.S. apparently was tipped off to the attack happening, but very soon before it did, wasn't consulted before all of that. I want to bring in now Leslie Palti-Guzman, founder at Energy Vista, also a senior non-resident fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, to talk more about this and the effects that it's having on the region. This comes on the heels of this OPEC announcement boosting outflows of oil. So what does all of this mean for the energy market? We have been through this conflict now for more than 700 days, going back to October the 7th. And there's been concern all the way that this could have a profound impact on the energy market. And so far, it really hasn't. Does this stand to change that calculus or the way the energy market looks in any way?
Well, thank you for having me back. I think it was most likely an orchestrated attack. And as a result, we're not likely to have short-term market implications, especially for Qatari gas and LNG and pricing globally, because Qatar remains one of the world's largest LNG exporter. However, it's going to have implications for its long-term expansion plans. Qatar is expanding massively its export capacity in the coming years and has not marketed all of it. And this underscores its vulnerability because of its location and because of the vulnerability of its shipping routes that we've seen over the past 2 years since the wars in the Middle East have surged in different neighborhood countries. We've seen also in Iran attacking Qatar in June, also an orchestrated attack. So I think it really puts in plain sight Qatar's vulnerabilities.
Tom, laying out again in broad strokes sort of what goes on in Qatar, and let me dig into that a bit more. We had the President of the United States going there on this big trip and really playing up the fact that it's a source of investment and a place that he's really seized on as an important ally. And the region, of course, has the largest military base the U.S. military base in the Middle East as well. How do you see the geopolitics unfolding here? Qatar was playing this huge role here in trying to negotiate some sort of solution to that conflict in Gaza. They're upset. The U.S. is upset. What does it mean just for the broader geopolitical relationships here?
I think Qatar has a very ambiguous geopolitical standing. On one hand, it hosts U.S. military base, and on the other hand, it keeps strong ties with Western enemies, such as Iran, Hamas, the Houthi, the Muslim Brotherhood, and its financing in Europe, for example. I think what we've seen right now is Israel really coming out with its new military defense strategy since October 7, preemptively deterring any threats and trying to accomplish its war goals before the markup of the 2 years anniversary, sad anniversary of October 7.
Let me ask the dumb American question, because I am the dumb American. Are they on our side? When you look at Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, you look at the shores of the Persian Gulf, are those guys, are they on our side?
I think that's the best question. And
I did okay?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm so happy you asked this question, because I think eventually there is going to be more scrutiny on Qatar, and they will need to pick a side, because this ambiguity geopolitically serves them as any middle small power, but it cannot last, because there is this rivalry between China and the US, because there is too much at stake on the economics side of things. So it's definitely a critical question for the coming years.
Is the United Arab Emirates and the complexities of the 5 tribes, have Dubai, have Abu Dhabi, have they picked a side?
Not necessarily, but if you look at the Yemen civil war, for example, Qatar was definitely not on the Saudi side, but was on the Houthi side. And right now you have many threats that are coming on the way to the US.
Right.
And Qatar is not on the right side necessarily.
This is the distinction, folks. Gura knew all that, what she just said. To me, it's Greek. I'm like, really? Continue, David.
We were talking earlier this week. Ian Bremmer of Eurasia Group sent out a note talking about this kind of reconfiguration of geopolitical alliances. And for so long, he was talking about G0 and the dissolution of this alliance of world leaders. Help us understand what you saw as you watched the proceedings unfold in Beijing a few days ago. So you had President Xi there with Kim Jong-un, and you had Prime Minister Modi there, Vladimir Putin there as well. What does all of that signal to you, particularly from the vantage that you have of looking at this through the prism of energy?
Yeah. Time will tell us if it's a strategic bluff or a real deepening of the geoeconomic alliance between Beijing and Moscow. I think it reminded me some of the Cold War statements, preemptive statements, not much detail. They haven't agreed on pricing, but they are here to come as a splash on the media, on the international stage, and show that they have this kind of cooperation going on.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. That was really good.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know how you do it. How do you know that Qatar supported the Houthis?
You do too. You
did a big take on it probably at some point. Leslie, thank you. Leslie Palte-Guzman with us with Energy Vista as well.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live each weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.